And we just got to the full hour of 1 p.m. and I would like to welcome everybody. So my name is Josepha. I'm the growth marketing lead for Climate Choice, and I'm actually super happy to be here today with you for this choice event number 8 here already. So this choice event in particular is one where we want to really wrap up the year 2024 by evaluating what were the key achievements, but also challenges in the Scope 3 sector, and jointly then also check in for the most important trends to elevate for the year to come. Now, the choice event is actually part of our Climate Choice online webinar series dedicated to showcasing best practices for driving Scope 3 decarbonization. And we at the Climate Choice are actually an AI-first climate intelligence platform that really tries to help not only sustainability teams and climate teams, but also procurement teams in particular, to automate all the process steps from supplier engagement to audit-ready data collection at scale, so that we can move forward together and accelerate Scope 3 decarbonization together. And as you can see, we are not here alone. And with me, I mean Elara and myself, who's also working for Climate Choice, and she will introduce herself also in a second. But we are here in a wonderful group of people. And I would actually like to start introducing Stefan, whom you're also seeing here. He is the sustainability manager since 2006 at Melitta Group, and actually since 2019, the director of sustainability strategy. And I mean, Melitta is also a very broad group, even though it is still considered within the SME sector, but it is a family-run enterprise with already 116 years of tradition. And everybody, I think, knows it from coffee preparation, and then also a lot of household products like the zipper bags. But Stefan, before I tell more about yourself, I would love to actually hand over the word to you so that you can say a little bit more about who you are, what Melitta does, what is your strategy, and also what I would be very interested. I was quite hooked when I saw sustainability strategy in one word as, a department or a sector in your company. So you can maybe give us a little bit of an introduction to it, of what is behind it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Josepha. And hi, good afternoon. Good to meet you all. And thanks for having me, Lara and Josepha. Looking forward to this meeting today. Well, Josepha, thanks for introducing me. I'm Stefan, Director of Sustainability Strategy for the Melitta Group. I'm with the Melitta Group now since 5.5 years. It's correct that I'm engaged as a sustainability manager since 2006, so nowadays for 18 years, unbelievably. But until 2019, I was with another enterprise, and it's changed then to Melitta Group in 2019. What's about my personal and professional career? I studied environmental sciences at today's Leuphana University in Lüneburg in Germany. Then I was for some years engaged as a personal trainer and HR personal development manager. But then in 2006, I went back to the roots, let's say. My former employer, when they established a new corporate responsibility department, and I had the pleasure to co-develop and co-manage that new established corporate department for many years. And now I'm happy to be with Melitta. You also shortly explained who Melitta is. I think for many German, at least, people, it's a quite well-known brand, at least. 116 years of tradition. Miss Melitta Benz invented in 1908 in Dresden the coffee filter. And Melitta then, with her husband and her sons, established the enterprise Melitta. And nowadays we have three main strategic business fields. It's coffee, of course. We are number 7 or number 8 of the global coffee roasting enterprises. It's coffee preparation, of course, the Melitta filter bags or Filtertüten. but also household coffee machines, as well as professional coffee system solutions for professional caterers, for canteens, etc. pp. And last but not least, you also mentioned the household products like Toppit's cling film or Swirl garbage bags or vacuum cleaner bags. And with these three strategical business activities, we achieve an annual turnover of around about 2.2 billion euros, and we are around about 6,000 colleagues. I think what's very clear, if you hear about our main strategical business activities, for each of these strategic fields, sustainability is a core topic. Yeah, and it's in many, with respect to many aspects, precondition of long-term sustainability in the best sense of the word. So be ready for the future, also in the long-term perspective. And before the background, of course, we have committed end of 2019 to a decade of transformation by 2030, in which we are trying to transform all our relevant business activities and processes into direction of long-term sustainability. And one relevant part of that is, of course, climate protection. And so our vision for climate is to be at least climate neutral in 2045, according to the SBTi and CSRD requirements. But this will be, of course, later on a topic we will discuss more in detail. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Wow, I already learned a lot of fun facts that you can bring up, you know, at I don't know, at a party or whatsoever about the Melitta group. Thank you so much for this. So already going out with the learnings here. And I mean, at least when it comes to then also the coffee piece, I think there is quite an intersection also, or an overlap also with our two colleagues here from KWS, because I think what we will also learn later is how fragmented this market is and what also comes as a challenge working across such a fragmented market. And Toine, maybe over to you. I mean, with KWS, you're also working in the agricultural business. We can very well see this also in your background. So seeding or seed breeding to then also propagation. And what I learned also from you is that since 5.5 years, you're actually working in the Department of Global Strategic Procurement for KWS, but you're actually already since the company since more than 10 years now. And so you've been going through quite some of an evolution also in the company itself. And interestingly for our talk today is that within your very internationally set up team of Global Strategic Procurement, you're now also responsible for tackling the Scope 3 challenge. So maybe also here, kindly handing it over to you before then getting to Sandra in order to take on the word as part of the members of your team. You're still on mute. Now.
Sorry. Good. So thank you very much, Josefa, and also Lara for having me. And good afternoon to everybody online as well. Yeah, on myself, first of all, so my name is Toine. Indeed, I'm a little longer than 25 years already with KWS, of which...
sorry, it was KWS Germany.
No, all good.
That's why.
So
Okay.
Also in Germany. So originally coming from the Netherlands, started there at KWS, and then moved on to the headquarters where I had multiple 5.5 years. We have built up a strategic procurement department. Also quite a fun fact, KWS is almost 170 years old. A family-owned business, but strategic procurement we only do for 5.5 years. So it's completely new setup here. What we have done, it's an agricultural company. Our main focus areas are corn, sugar beets, and cereals, but we do multiple other products as well, as you can see in the background from me and Sandra. We have a turnover of roughly 2 billion, and we have roughly 5,000 employees located in 70 different locations around the world. Yeah, since I would say 2.5 years, 2 new areas have popped up in our department. I'm responsible there for the OPEX, so all the production relevant materials and services. And especially in that area, risk and sustainability are becoming a key factor on decision making as well. It's more than price, quality, availability nowadays. And therefore all kinds of new challenges popped up. And I think there's one common item with all of these challenges, and that's called data. And we will tell more about that, but I think that's also the bridge why Sandra is in my team.
Yeah, Sandra, I mean, to be honest, I think your journey within KWS is actually a very interesting one, because I mean, you've been moving right from the master data department then into Toine's team, now taking over their scope 3. So also discovering, I guess, this world of sustainability in a new way for you. So yeah, happy to hand it over to you and get some insights on how you feel and how overwhelmed you are.
Thank you, Josef and Lara, for the invite. Very happy to be here and sharing some thoughts about all of this journey. So as some background, I'm a production engineer. I worked on production facilities and also on procurement. Then 2019, I moved to Europe to do a master's in logistics and supply chain. In between Spain and Germany, and then 2021 I started my journey with KWS, and then I started in the master data team, and 1 year ago I moved to Toine's team. Also a little bit before joining, I joined the whole scope 3 project from the master data side, and then did the transition. And in April this year, I took over the leadership of scope 3 reporting, and I'm working around scope 3. So it has been a very nice journey. I mean, not so long as the others, but it has been very exciting and with a lot of learnings and interesting things to do. So regarding the vision of KWS, let's say we are split into scope 1 and 2, where we already have targets for 2030 and 2050, and scope 3, it's a bit young for us. So we did our first reporting this year and working there. And as the vision that we have like in 2 different directions. We have the collection of primary data, because of course this would lead us to more accurate reporting and assignation of emission factors, but it doesn't stop there. I mean, for us, it's very important is the joint initiatives that we engage with our suppliers to be able to actually reduce our carbon footprint. And this means not only that they are using alternative source of energy or making their products more clean, but also what other alternatives are out there to replace what we are currently using. Because I mean, it's known that the agricultural business uses a lot of chemicals, and that they account for high emissions. So also what is there out in the market that we could actually be as effective as a chemical, but also doing less harm to the environment. So this is in the end, as we see this vision for scope 3 in KWS.
Thank you so much. And I mean, we will be coming to you this like proper, not only the duality basically of how you see emission reduction, right? So first of all, the cleanup of the data, which is one piece, but then also, of course, the engagement really with your suppliers to have real world impact beyond the data provided. And I'm very much looking forward already to that piece. And Laura, before I hand it over to you, I would just, because I see some people lifting up their hands, what we would actually like to do, and this is my kind invitation, is you can have the opportunity to ask questions at any point in time. So there is either the little bubble with the question mark, or the 3 dots when you click on it, and then it says questions and answers. And please always, pop in your questions into the chat, and then we will try to answer them either during the session or then also at the end. So be very much invited. This would be so cool to get your comments then also here. And now, Laura, I mean, I've got the huge pleasure to be working with you every day, and I already learned so much because, I mean, you've been in the sustainability sector for over 10 years now, and you are also one of our 3 co-founders of Climate Choice. And maybe, you know, before I say more about you, you can also take up the word and give a quick intro. That would be super lovely.
Yeah, thanks a lot for hosting the webinar and bringing everyone together. And yeah, I think working since 10 years in sustainability is not so much looking into the industry, but I think we have a nice, maybe example of how the field of sustainability has also so much developed. As Stefan did, I also studied sustainability at the Leuphana. And I think back then it was still like a topic where you, at least at the university, often got said, like, do you really just want to do a sustainability report every year? And is that where you want to end up working? Or that's what I heard a lot. And now it really became like a corner piece of every single department, specifically in procurement. So that's what I love, what Sandra and Toine are already sharing, right? It's like a very strategic topic where it's now really about how do you adapt your business model basically to the existing climate reality, if we want to call it climate change or climate catastrophe yet, that's to be debated. And I think that's why people move into that field from all departments and from a personal motivation to really strive business transformation, but then also have a really impact on environment and climate. And that's what I'm happy to do with Climate Choice as one of the co-founders and a really awesome team behind it. And we are really working on bringing climate transparency into supply chains and supporting data-based to really take smart decisions with which suppliers you want to collaborate, how you can maybe work with them to adapt your business models, moving away from not only critical resources maybe, but also carbon heavy resources, where we learn probably later more about regulations and so on, forcing us also to do so, but then also creating new business opportunities by really seeing, okay, there are like big trends looking into renewables, or specifically also the food sector, where you can really bring sustainability and climate impact together. So that's what I'm excited about, and where I feel like Scope 3 has such a nice intersection with sustainability, business impact, and procurement specifically.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. And I mean, you're already talking about the topic of climate reality. And maybe, you know, to start on a high note, there I would also actually like to start with you, because what we want to do in this webinar is to reflect on the year 2024, really looking at what goals have been set, what have we achieved, but then also moving forward, what is up to come to elevate for the next year, 2025. Yet oftentimes, I mean, we need, you know, reality checks. We need to have, you know, also proper numbers that confront us with what is up to come, then also in terms of climate. And yeah, I would like to, you know, ask you kindly to give us a little bit of a review of the year 2024. I mean, you're always up to date with the last literature when it comes to the status quo globally of, you know, when is the hottest year, hottest month, but then also socioeconomic losses that are either committed to or that we can still navigate. And maybe, you know, you can give us a short introduction so that we can have this as a context setting for also, making up the case of urgency, but also of opportunity for us to really make Scope 3 happen.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really, really crucial to also bring the opportunities in, because like we all know the topic, and specifically everyone working in sustainability, we all know it's kind of a bummer to really look into the facts and the numbers. And the high one above is really that the last 18 months basically have been the hottest on record, which brings this year specifically to the hottest on record ever. We did hit the 1.5 global degrees global warming, and that doesn't mean that's already irreversible and that we cannot go under it anymore. That would be the point that we really want to avoid. So coming between 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees, that's where climate science says, like, from that point it's irreversible and it will just go up. We are not near that yet, and that's always what I really want to stress, because that brings this decade, or maybe 5 to 15 years, to be become really the most critical, I would even say, kind of in human mind history, at least. Nature is another story. It's much longer there than we have been. But for us, it's really this decade where we can create literally the future that comes. And it's in our hands how quick, slow, or reversed things are going to proceed. And having said that, like from the framework of, okay, the globe is further heating up, we do see signs we have globally a committed 1.5 degree Paris Agreement. We still have every year the COP coming together and trying to bring countries to move towards that. We also see it's a huge challenge. We cannot really commit on big steps, which would be what everyone was waiting for, phasing out of fossil fuels. It's really like this one thing where people, I mean, like I had it in my studies, everyone probably had it in their studies. And when you think about it in your private life, we also know like energy, renewable energy is really the one beginning of everything, like reducing emissions. Like almost 70% of emissions worldwide are connected to energy usage. So if we bring that forward, that would be a big milestone. And but what I also think from COPE, it shows how difficult it is to come on a global level on agreements and next steps. So that brings me actually back to very much having this thought in mind. You impact your environment, like your ecosystem, your business partners, your business model, and everyone and every company can start there. So bringing renewables in their supply chain has a massive impact, starting for sure at their own company, but then really looking to the hundreds and thousands of suppliers you're working with. Also changing their materials, really having a look, are there certain maybe advantages in different alternatives you can have, and so on. And that's especially a study from BCG that recently came out, what I totally loved. They stressed that until 2050, we are at risk to lose 20% of global GDP. But then on the other hand, they showed the top industries that actually have a business or potentially can generate a business advantage by adapting quickly to climate change. And food is one of the ones leading actually there. And after that, energy, also the IT and comms sector and industries specifically. So we do see we are in a huge transition phase and no one really likes it and it's super challenging. But if we are the ones that adapt really quickly and find new chance to maybe leave away the cash cows and not become the Kodak of staying with one business model forever, that there are huge potentials in now becoming a leader and adapting to really new realities.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, I mean, as you've been saying, right? I mean, there's the piece of looking at it from the dark side, but then also from the bright side, where there's really a call to action to like all stakeholders alike in order to not move into the worst case emission scenarios after mid-century. And now sitting in this group of a very Scope 3 engaged people where we can move the needle together, I would actually like to go on and also have a look at very company specific goal setting. So maybe Toine, starting with you here, can you give us a little bit of an insight on your Scope 3 goals at the beginning of 2024 and how much progress you have also been doing so far? And Sandra, of course, also always jump in with any operational details from your end.
Yeah, of course. So if I go back really 1 year, so it was the end of 23 actually. So we had for the first time in KWS calculated on spend based our CO2 equivalent amounts. And that was a nice part to achieve, I would say. That was a good milestone. But then we're thinking, okay, what can we do to improve? How can we make it way more realistic? And also to start working on it. And that's why we set for 2024 really the target to move away from spend-based to the hybrid setup and come at least to 70% of activity-based. And on top of that, we are a family-owned business. And our executive board also wanted to report already Scope 3 emissions, although it's legally not a demand at this moment yet, but we wanted to be on time. And we are working in agriculture, so the executive board said, hey, can you already make it happen? Can you already do a decent report? So we took that challenge this year. And I can already say, yes, we have managed. We have done the audit in summer with EY. Was quite a nice experience to see also their view on how to calculate data. Intensive discussions, very good, very fruitful. But at the end, we got the goal. So in September, we have, next to our annual report on financial data, we have also reported scope 1, 2, and scope 3 data, which was for us then really the highlight. And on top of that, I'm proud to say we have already almost 80%, and now also an activity-based, although 70 was then the target. So we really over-delivered in that case. And that makes us now ready to go directly to the next step, to also start to find out with which suppliers can we start to engage. I mean, improving master data is a way to lower your figures maybe, but really also to make a difference. So really to work on reduction of emissions. And therefore, in procurement, we need to work together with our suppliers. And that is now the next step, which we have started. Actually, also together with you in Climate Choice, with the cohort where we are now also part of, to learn from other companies with the same challenges, and to exchange and to start looking also with your AI, which suppliers are working on it and are the first ones to approach to go that next step. And that is then the aim for 2025 from my side.
Yeah, I just to add there one goal more on the operational side, going, let's say, more to the shop floor activities. One of our goals was to have a better data accuracy, because, and this is very linked to what Toine was just sharing, of having activity-based data. When we just have spend-based data, we're still at a very high level. And it's difficult to be able to bring it down, to collect primary data from our suppliers and so on. So for us, one important goal was to have a better accuracy in the data, so that our carbon emission reporting was actually as accurate as our data was enabling us to have it at the time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I mean, then also like looking at it, right, I think what you have in common is then also all the data around forest, land and agriculture, which is, I guess, very much in common then also with what Stefan is working on. And I know also, Stefan, that at Melitta, you've been driving this topic now since quite some time, and that you've also been already looking at road mapping, etc. So maybe a little bit of a reflection also from the Melitta Group perspective on the goals for 2024 and the progress made.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, I would like to very shortly refer to what you mentioned, Lara. Indeed, we do not have much time left. Yeah, that's really important, and so it's absolutely relevant and essential that also individual business economy players, actors like enterprises, industry, etc., are engaging themselves. That's absolutely needed. Because also, of course, this discussion is very complex. That's complexity is inherent. That's clear. But unfortunately, particularly in Germany, but also elsewhere, the discussion is also complicated, and that does it make also for us all complicated to define targets and then also to achieve these targets. That's perhaps a preliminary remark to your impulse, Lara. We committed to SBTi net zero 2045 in 2023, and so it was very clear we have 2 years then time to develop SBTi target and the corresponding, of course, as well roadmap, long-term roadmap to achieve these targets, and that's what is our main target for 2024. And along with that, of course, also Sandra, you called it cleaning data. Of course, we also tried, along with the balancing of our emissions for 2023, to further develop our data quality. Well, where are we standing now? Regarding the data quality, yes, we achieved a lot in the meantime, but it's also clear that this is a continuous task and partially also a continuous challenge, especially, of course, in Scope 3, due to complex value chains, not available data, bad secondary data quality, etc. pp. So this will be a task which will go on, will last for the next years. Yeah, that's very clear. But we have, of course, to go step for step for step. Regarding this development of the SBTi and CSRD conform roadmap, yeah, we have nearly finished that on a generic level. But we come back to the word complicated. Parallel, the CSRD came into force, and we are currently implementing the CSRD requirements into our management systems and reporting systems, strategies, etc. pp. And what we learned when we had a closer look on the CSRD requirements, they are not totally harmonized with the SBTi requirements. So we had also to do some additional work to somehow find targets and measures and balancing methodologies, etc. pp, which are fulfilling both requirements, SBTi as well as CSRD. This, of course, made the process a little bit more slowly, but we have to do that. So that's the case. Finally, I can say, yes, we have a very clear idea how to come to this roadmap and how this roadmap will look like. And parallel, and this would be the focus for the further meeting today from my side, we started to prepare corresponding activities for reductions and removals in our flag emissions. And these flag emissions are mainly the emissions in our coffee value chain and mainly in the coffee production. Sandra and Toine already mentioned the chemical fertilizers, or also pesticides, etc. pp. And many other agricultural methodologies, and they are main drivers or levels of emissions in our value chain. And this will be also for the future one of the main tasks to achieve your system of reductions and removals and corresponding allocations to our value chain in the coffee sector to be able to achieve our targets.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Stefan, I think there were so many points in there, right? So, I mean, the urgency to like really work on it, because I mean, besides the energy sector, forest, land and agriculture is the second highest emitting sector worldwide. Yeah, so I think this is definitely there. But then you also mentioned the complexity. So if you want to move then into action, right, there's a lot of different requirements coming into play, CSRD, CSRD, EU taxonomy, etc. So this part you mentioned, but then also what I would like to maybe highlight from your perspective, because I found this so interesting. In our talk before, you mentioned that you've got 12.5 million farms, yeah, all over the globe, that you're working with. And how do you do it? So what kind of challenges, real life challenges, do you then also face when you look at implementing your targets?
Yeah, thanks. Well, indeed, it's assumed that in the global coffee sector, we have around about 12.5 million coffee farms. Yeah, it could also be more. Nobody knows exactly. That's the best guess, let's say. Yeah, and that's around the globe. So along the so-called coffee belt, around the equator, we have these coffee farms. And the big majority of those farms are smallholder farms with 1 hectare up to 7 hectare, but also many, especially in some Central American or African states, below 1 hectare. And so it's a very diverse production structure, if I may say so. Yeah. And additionally, we have the challenge that in the coffee mass market, we have to blend. Because if you are buying, for example, our Melitta Auslese, which is one of our most sold coffee products, our consumers expect a homogeneous cup profile regarding taste, quality, etc. pp. And for the coffee, it's of course the same like for the wine. Yeah, the quality and the quantities are varying for a year or for every yield due to weather conditions, etc. pp. So you have to blend as a coffee roasting enterprise the products to achieve this homogeneous cup profile, as we call it in the coffee sector. Yeah, and that does mean we cannot say, okay, here is a great farm, it's managed very well, it's sustainable, etc. pp. We have individual GHG emission data, and we will buy from this farm for the next 10 or even more years. In the very most cases, this is not possible because we have to buy where we find the qualities we need to achieve this homogeneous cup profile. And that is mean what we need for the coffee sector, and that's the same not only for the coffee, but we have very similar structures, production structures in the cocoa, for the tea sector, etc. pp. We need a system in where we can engage in a given region for reductions and removals with partners. Yeah, and then for this region, if any removals, reductions are achieved, we can somehow, by a system, for example, of credits or similar, we can allocate these reductions, removals to our own value chain. This is what is needed. This is a very complex task, of course. And what we are currently doing is to establish such a regenerative region, as we call it, because the main reduction removals will be achieved by regenerative agriculture. So shadowing trees, cover crops, organic fertilizer, etc. pp. Many other topics, to establish such a regenerative region in Brazil, which is a very important sourcing market for us, of course. And additionally, we have our own business unit there with own coffee roasteries, etc. pp. So we are very well represented in that country for many, many years now. And we are trying with other partners from the sector, also with competitors, other roasters, traders, civil societies, governmental institutions and authorities, etc., to establish such a piloting case for a regenerative region in which we are testing regenerative agriculture, measuring the reduction, removals, and trying to, let's at least piloting a market for these credits or something like that, to be able to allocate that to our value chain. Yeah, that's in a nutshell what we're trying to do, yeah, and what we're working on.
Thank you so much. And I think, I mean, also what is very interesting, right, is really this like analysis of the future risk profile, but then also the contracting that you're having, which is obviously also based on the quality that you want to gain for your own coffee brand. So, I mean, it's a yeah, very complex structure. And Toine was saying already before that we move away from only looking at cost and volume, now also more and more into this climate aspect, which of course is a way to go. And you also highlighted how you need to get started, right? So with this, for example, pilot project now in Brazil, to then also not only convince stakeholders internally, but also externally of the company that it is working. Yet coming back maybe a little bit to this internal piece, what I found also very interesting, and now, you know, getting into this whole topic of scope 3 is that you would think, yeah, okay, everybody buys into it, right? And that it is from like a logical perspective, something where we say, yes, okay, let's allocate money to it, let's find the data. But indeed, it isn't always so easy. And so maybe Sandra, I would like to hand it over here to you, because I mean, particularly you've been taken out of your master data team, which I think was very sad of losing you, but then Toine was very happy to get you into the team in order to then also get this perspective in how to generate data, maybe get it also, get data that previously wasn't really needed. So maybe looking at this internal piece of collaboration, you can tell us a little bit about the challenges.
I mean, picking up from where you were saying, I think the key point here, it's data that was before not needed, or we didn't know how to use it. So we were, or we are currently maintaining a master data setup that was fulfilling the purposes of each of our business units, but everyone was using it in a different way. So finding a common ground or standardization in the data has been one of our key challenges, because we cannot find a common ground on how to put this together to actually help us to do our reporting. I mean, in parallel, it has also been quite nice, because we are currently transitioned from one version of our ERP to a new one. So this has also given us the opportunity to set up for the future the need of a standardized master data, and showing, you know, in the past, sustainability or risk or all of these new regulations coming around were not important. But now when we speak about CSRD, EUDR, CSRD, and so on, and I keep going, data is becoming more and more relevant, because the only way to be able to show the authorities that we are compliant to all of this setup, it's by this. So data will be that first pillar to enable us to keep going and into the other more interesting part, that it's actually what Stefan was talking about, how to be able to actually set it up and to show reductions. But when we don't have that base, that it's the data availability and accuracy, it's very hard, because how are we really showing that what we're doing is having an impact when we are not able to measure it? So I think if data, it's not the goal, but it's the pillar to which we have to build scope 3. And of course, it's a journey. It's not something you do today and forget about tomorrow, but it's creating a consciousness in every user of the data and every data creator. Why is the reason that you have to do it to your best? This is not something that some crazy people there in procurement and sustainability are talking about, but is actually having an impact on what we are doing as a company, and how we can, in the end, help the planet. That it's like the whole reason we're doing this. I mean, it's far away from business or compliance or regulation, but it's actually what we're doing for the planet.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, we've been looking at many different things here, right? So regulatory pressure, and then also the challenge of internal alignment, but then also really the implementation, Sandra, as you've been saying it, right? So really giving back to our planet, but this then also across fragmented markets. And Lara, I mean, you're working with lots of companies from across sectors. You're looking at the challenges, but you're also trying to support them in the developments, for example, with our Scope 3 Action Group, in which Sean and Sandra are also currently taking part. Maybe you can also give us a little bit of an insight on current trends, particularly when it comes to the regulatory pressure piece, which is always there and which is always being named, but then also looking at Scope 3 in particular.
Yeah, and I did a little bit my homework to not just give my gut feeling from the Scope 3 group. I mean, we have now more than 40 companies from across industries in there, which is really giving an extremely good overview. And it does align actually with what I also found in research, which is, and everyone has said it here, right, that the regulation is really the number one driving pressure right now in this whole field of climate transition. So firstly, that really these global climate targets and European targets come into legislation and into regulations, but then they also bring this challenge that what Stefan said, it's not yet really aligned. And we do hear rumor, right? It was announced recently that there should be like an omnibus regulation bringing together like the three most important ones, which would be EU taxonomy, CSRD, and CSRD. but that we have also seen things have been postponed. We don't know how easy that will be to bring everything together. Those three regulations are rather different, even though they all have an underlying piece in common. And I think that's what Sandra already said. You need to be responsible for your actions, and you need to document it and show that you are compliant to it, be transparent about it, and you will need to report on it. And what comes together in all of these legislations is really that your climate responsibility will not end at your business door, which used to be often the understanding in the past. Bringing it to carbon accounting, that would be scope 1 and 2, so your direct emissions from your buildings or indirect from the energy, but it really brings a whole supply chain into your responsibility, which is scope 3. And for that, you need data. And most companies have been using average data, which is a really good starting point to get an understanding of hotspots, and to really bring also first management system into place to say how many emissions am I owning, likely. But now it really will come towards, you will have to show your transition plan, which basically means how are you bringing emissions down to meet net zero? And how do you align your whole business model toward the 1.5 degree target? And that is the really crucial point, and companies have still often overlooked it. And that's again not what I found only, but research. So CDP, for example, says that only 10% of the companies reporting to them yet engage their supply chain on climate action. And I mean, almost 50% of European countries, companies have so far climate targets. And if you want to reduce emissions, and typically 90% and more of your emissions come from the supply chain, that will not work without engaging your suppliers, because they basically, what Stefan already has said, right? They have to implement your ideas. And if they are not, you will be A, responsible, and B, you will have to figure out why they are not doing so. So maybe you need to invest with them. Maybe you need to align in new strategies. Maybe you need to show them a benefit in transitioning from one material to the other, or so forth. But yeah, you will have to have a management system so that you can actually show emissions go down. And for that, you need the real data from your supply chain and not just averages or assumptions. And I think that's really underlying to the whole reporting piece.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, I mean, what came out also for me is that even though, you know, there is this whole voice from the business sector, that there has been quite a focus up until now on complying with the various reporting standards, because you first needed to actually understand it, and now you're working on it. Yeah, and the true impact also is being seen when you start then also engaging with your suppliers really and collaborate with them. And this actually moves me on to the next piece of our discussion here today, because Stefan, I mean, you've been already highlighting, for example, this pilot project, in Brazil, where you're looking at creating regenerative regions, then also together with the farmers. And it's really an intensification then also of engagement across that sector. And I would like to ask you, I mean, it sounds so complicated. Also, when you look at the standards that we might hear, but then also standards that might exist somewhere else, what kind of strategies have actually helped you to create yet a common understanding and a shared interest among your suppliers that are in line with the Melitta Group goals? And how do you also bring smaller suppliers up to speed? Yeah.
Very good question. Well, first of all, of course, Melitta cannot rule the world, and we don't want to do that, of course, as well. But we have to work with those and that who are already in the, let's say, coalition of the willing, and what is already given regarding structures, regarding methodologies, regarding standards, etc. pp. So this is something we also once again learned in the framework of the implementation of the German LKSG, so German Supply Chain Due Diligence Act, when we started with in a team of German Coffee Association members to implement an own grievance mechanism in the coffee sector in Brazil. And the Brazilian people said, what do you want with that? We have already two established, and this is a grassroots On the one hand, the government one, and on the one hand, a grassroots engagement from the sector. And we don't need a German one. And then the same, and of course, generally I knew that with my experience, but this was once again a learning, and a very valuable learning. And so I have no problem to talk about that, because it's so essential. You have to respect, not always to accept, but to respect what is already given. Where are the interests? What is the status? And which contribution can you provide as a part of the sector on the global, but also on the national, on the regional level, to further develop that? And that's really essential to show and to, first of all, to understand, and then also to communicate what's the benefit, where's the benefit for everybody who should be involved in that. And it's really essential, and it's really, really a challenge to explain what we, our German or European legislators are intending with given legislation or other rules, and how can we translate that and transform it to something which is relevant and benefiting for those who are doing finally the work. And that are, excuse me, that are, of course, the producers. The producers have to do the work, and they have to see the benefit of that, and not in the long-term perspective, but in a short-term perspective. And that's really essential. And so what we are currently doing is there's a global coffee platform, let's say one of the biggest global alliances for sustainability in the coffee sector. We are a long-term member of that platform. They have also a national platform in Brazil, and they are working on a nationwide further development of the coffee strategy, sustainable coffee strategy for Brazil. And so we opened the dialogue, how could we usefully integrate this regenerative region principles in the given strategies, in the targets, in the benefits this new strategy wants to achieve and to generate. And this is a very complex dialogue, of course, but it is worth it. I'm deeply convinced about that, because we need the scalability of what we are doing. If we're talking about a regenerative region, we do not need another piloting project, and after 3 years we wrote down, oh, it's a great report, we have our results and conclusions are la, 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 la. And then everybody is saying, hey, that's great. I will read it through during the weekend and put it on the desk and in the shelf in my working room. And then it's finished. But what we need is solutions which are convincing and which are therefore also scalable in the given country, but also beyond of that. And that's the main principle. A dialogue, listen, understand, but also communicate in a manner that everybody is understanding what's in for me. And that's a very business-driven approach, because we are also convinced that, last sentence, sorry, that this, oh, we want to do something good for the globe. It doesn't work. I'm doing that for 18 years. We have achieved some things, that's okay, but the needed speed and velocity will only be achieved by integrating that, and also Sandra and Toine mentioned that, by including and implementing that in the core business activities.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And this is a perfect transition, and maybe then also shifting to this internal business perspective. And I would like to then also get Toine on the scene, because I mean, we talked about this also in the Scope 3 Action Group, right? So how do you translate, so to say, these somewhat humanly obvious benefits then also in business language? And we've been having some talks already, then also, for example, on internal carbon prices. And there's actually the last CDP report, which was also talking about it, right? How setting financial metrics, such, for example, the internal carbon price, can actually really drive forward climate aligned decisions, because you are better in than also, or you've got a better chance, to create transparency on climate costs across the organization. Yet the report also states that only 14% of corporates reporting through CDP up to today use ICPs. So maybe we can get it back to you here. Can you tell us a little bit more, Toine, on how you try to then also move into this piece of financial target setting to really get procurement on board and to get the organization on board to support finding solutions and going with the necessary investments?
Yeah, so it's a little bit like Stefan already said, it's a lot of communication, a lot of listening. And what I took away from it is that for a lot of people, an X tons of CO2 equivalence is not grabbable. I mean, if I have a bottle of water and I tell you this is 1 liter, you still say, okay, yes, it is most likely. Or if I say it's 10,000 liters of water, you will say, no, no, no way, this is not possible. And that does not fit in a normal bottle. However, if I say this is 1 ton of emissions or 10 tons or only 500 Ks, you will never know. It's not a grabbable amount for people. And that's why my aim is also for next year to transfer it internally really into value, into euros in a very simple way said, because then it becomes grabbable. And when I see here around in our procurement department, they are very much KPI driven. Products have to be the right quality, as I mentioned, they have to be there on time and for the best price possible. We don't have the strategy to squeeze the suppliers, but it has to be in a fair way. However, if I say to them, you have to reduce, for example, 3 or 5% of the emissions, it's very difficult for them. They do not know how to negotiate. However, if I transfer this again into euros and I say, okay, 1 ton of emissions is, and that's then the big question mark, where to raise the level of value for it. Because I hear prices somewhere between 65, 100, but also 180 sometimes is being said, which is going to be the price for the future. Then it becomes for a procurement department way more interesting to have a KPI on that. Because then they can say, yes, we sit down together with a supplier and we look to total cost of ownership. So we don't only look on the cost price, but we also look to the amount of emissions of the certain product or service. And then it can be that this product is maybe a little bit more expensive in the costs. However, with this, we can start together with the supplier a project to really have a more sustainable product or service. And that is delivering the major savings for us then. And that is the way I want to drive it here into the procurement department. The same way is our procurement department is reporting to the CFO. CFO is all about finance. So that's also the same thing to make it more grabbable for them. Everybody is speaking about scope 1 and 2. But in most companies, scope 1 and 2 is maximum 30%. In our company, it's less than 10%. More than 90% is scope 3. So yes, it is good to tackle scope 1 and 2. I support them very much. But if we really start or keep, as we did so far, ignoring scope 3, we will never make it. We need to go deeper down in the supply chain, in the value chain, to work with them together to come to sustainable solutions. And that is really also my target for 2025.
Yeah, thank you. And you're already, I mean, there's so much to talk about. Looking at the time, I mean, I would like to extend this now to have at least 1 more hour together with you guys. We don't, but you already triggered it, your thoughts and your wishes for 2025. Maybe in a 1-minute fireside, round. What is it that you're most looking forward to when we look at the next year ahead? Toine, do you maybe want to add something to what you've just been saying? Do you want to hand it over to Sandra before?
I think now, aside from this implementation of the currency, I think for us what's more important is to set the tone for what will come on supplier engagement, and for that definitely an important tool that we are using right now. It's the climate choice tool, to be able to understand where are our suppliers so that we know where to start. And this is so ending 2024 would be setting the tone for starting 25 and getting together to with those suppliers and starting the journey. And today also I'm in from my side, Stefan, everything that I hear around what you're doing in Brazil, it's really inspiring, because for us growers, it's also one of our biggest let's say hotspots, and how to handle them with all the complexities that you already highlight, same we're facing. So thank you for those inspiring words there, and also things that we can grab today. So yeah, very looking forward to supplier engagement and collaboration in 25.
Thank you so much, Sandra and Stefan. What about you?
Well, very shortly, I think most essential is that we will achieve next year from the public side as well as from the, let's say, private side. So GHG protocol, SBTi, etc. Very clear rules and regulation which enable also reductions, removals according to legislation in complex value chain as described in the coffee sector. That's most important, because this is the basis of further progress in that regard. And thank you also from my side for the really interesting discussion, and really a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And then Lara, I mean, again, like zooming out a little bit, your key highlights for the year to come. What can you not wait for?
Yeah, what I cannot wait for might be also, to really bring these key trends forward that we see in Scope 3 decarbonization. And I think where I always love to start is like the human, because no matter which technical solution we have, renewables are out there for a long time. Data is now really scaling up with AI. We have it at the fingertips, but it all starts with us. So I think upskilling the whole team, specifically procurement, to bring sustainability procurement into practice, but then everyone around to really make it one team effort, a company effort, rather than having this single champion in the sustainability team who needs to do it all. That would be my first trend for the next year. Second is to really use what's already out there, like digital tools. Specifically, companies in Germany are still sometimes a little bit resistant, but there are promising numbers, like more than 70% of CPOs plan to use AI to drive decarbonization. I found that at Gartner, so really, really interesting. And then the last one, I think, is really with climate management, to bring it to something holistic, like not just the CO2 accounting, also in Scope 3, but really moving to action and like make it a progress that we are in the end really proud of, and where we say we achieved really emission reduction and value along business or supply chains.
Yeah, thank you. And as Stefan, I really want to say thank you to all of you. I enjoyed it so much talking with you. And also, I mean, yeah, as said, I could go on, you know, go out now for a dinner or Christmas market and continue the talk. And for everybody else who also enjoyed it, listening in and being part of the conversation, we kindly invite you to also join the next Climate Transformation Summit 2025, which will be hosting on June 4th and 5th in Berlin, face to face. We will have tons of interesting speakers, workshops. I mean, I also hope to see Toine, Sandra, and Stefan there, of course, but also many more, to really connect with your peers, get inspired from other industry leaders, and walk back home. And I think this is also very important, with ready to implement Scope 3 strategies and action plans. So this is what we want to do. This is what we want to invite you for. And otherwise, I would say what a beautiful wrap up of the year. And besides all the news that are out there, I'm now, you know, closing down that chapter of the choice events for this year with a very positive note, because I see all these engaged people working with us on it. And with that, I wish everybody a very wonderful Christmas time. Relax, because there is, I think, a lot that we want to do together next year again. So thank you so much. See you then.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye.